What's up, guys? It's Joe. Welcome back to another video today. And first of all, let me apologize. It's been a couple of weeks since I've uploaded. I was out of town these past 2 weeks up in Minnesota without the setup here, so I couldn't make a video and talk about K-State. But I do want to mention some new things today. Now, I know this week has been a real kick in a bad spot to K-State fans everywhere. Things are still okay. And I'll talk about 3 guys I like going forward. But before I do, let me say thank you for all the support on the channel. We're currently at, I think, 570-ish subscribers at the time of uploading this. When we do hit 1,000, we're going to give away one of these super sweet lavender quarter zips on the channel. So if you're interested in getting your hands on one of these, go ahead and consider subscribing. We'll make a big post and a video about it when the time comes, when we cross that threshold. But let's get into the video here today. Now, let me just say, before we get into things, I do owe you guys an apology. I've made a lot of these videos talking about potential players to come to K-State and different people I could like and see the fit with, and even some people that are really interested in K-State and vice versa. In the 11 people I made a video on about, I am 1 for 11 in that stretch. So first of all, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just what I want to see, what I think could happen, and just giving you some more information, some more content to talk about with K-State. I'm 1 for 11. I mean, this is a bad streak. I've been 1 for 11 in that stretch, and I've talked about guys like this. Let me give you a rundown of every player we've talked to through this point, just to show you where we're at as a team. I started off by talking about Max Abmas, Aaron Estrada, and I think Moses Cisse, from what I remember. So we had a guard from Oral Roberts who basically averaged more points than everybody in the country, had the most points scored of any player. He ends up going to Texas. It was between K-State and Texas. He ends up going to Texas. I would doubt that he was asking for anything less than $500,000 in NIL money. We don't have that kind of money, and we're not going to offer that kind of money to one player in the portal. He goes up to Texas. It is what it is. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. Hofstra guard Aaron Estrada. I had another guy who I thought was going to go to K-State. He had us in his top 4, and I think he chose Alabama over us. I think maybe Texas Tech and somebody else. I forget off the top of my head. And the third player I talked about was Moses Cisse. Big Oklahoma State guy, big center for them. He ends up going to Ole Miss to go play for Chris Beard, the former Texas coach. The next player I talked about was Raekwon Battle. Played for Montana State. We all saw him. He was incredible. Ends up going to West Virginia in one of the best recruiting classes of all time for the Mountaineers. Then I talked about Toledo guard Ray J. Dennis. Just as of today, committed to Baylor. Rough break. Tough break. Next up, we had Southeastern Missouri's Philip Russell. He ends up going to, I think, UT Arlington. It wasn't something I expected, but either way, he's off the board too. Another guy, Jordan Dingle, another high-volume player, ends up going to St. John's to join Rick Pitino. What are you going to do about that? K-State wasn't ever really interested, but either way, I know I wanted them to say the least. The next guy, big man Damian Collins from Kentucky, goes to LSU. Didn't work out. And while K-State's been very vocal about landing a big man, we've missed out on a couple of them already. Julian Phillips, guy from Tennessee, ends up staying in the NBA draft. As of today, we made the announcement. He didn't withdraw from the draft. He's still there. Tennessee transfer if he came back, but he stays in the draft. The most recent miss, which absolutely breaks my heart, is the center from Kansas. Ernest Udeh Jr. goes to TCU. Absolutely sucks. It is what it is. I did hear a rumor on that. If you're interested in knowing, and I don't have a ton of sources on this, but I heard from a couple of different people. He was asking for more than $500,000 in NIL money. And I mentioned it with Max Abmas. K-State's not really in the market to do that. While we could do that, I just don't see that being our business model. And if you did want that kind of money, I mean, it makes sense for TCU in the sense that they're a private university, and I don't know how much they fundraise, but I imagine it's a chunk of money either way. Similar to a team like Baylor or similar to BYU, they don't have to report a lot of that stuff. Just because they're a private university, we're not all in the know of what each coach is making, if different players are making in NIL. I think they probably offered him a boatload of money. Goes to TCU. That sucks. However, there's always good things ahead. There's 3 players that I still have linked to K-State in different ways. Some of those guys on the list never mentioned K-State. Raekwon Battle, who I thought would mention something at least about K-State for how active the fans were and how active people were in pursuing him. I thought he was going to say something about K-State or even give him a top 8 chance. He did not. These 3 dudes I'm going to mention today have all either been linked to K-State, K-State's expressed interest in them, or they've expressed interest in K-State. That's what I've seen so far. The first dude we have to talk about. Tennessee transfer, not Julian Phillips, Olivier Nkamhoua. Now, this dude is an athletic playmaker. In the low post, he's 6'9", 230, which is pretty standard for a guy that volume. One thing that he does that blows me away, I watched back some of his film, and I didn't know what to expect from him. The only guy I knew about from Tennessee really was Julian Phillips. This guy explodes off the tape. I say that about a lot of people. This dude really does. He plays like a guard in the low 4, low 5 position. That's what I noticed about him. Not to say he plays small. He's just a quick, dynamic, explosive player in the low post. And we saw that with Naquan Tomlin. This dude averages 2 assists a game, and while he's not putting up 20 points a game or anything, the dude has that capability. He's played big games against Kansas. He's played big games against Texas as well. He gets to the low post, and he's a literal triple threat. He can step out and shoot the 3 ball. He can go and post up. He can fade away, do whatever he wants. And then he's also looking to pass. He's a really good skilled passer from the low post, which is something I haven't seen out of a lot of these big guys. Nkamhoua fits that profile. He could do absolute great things in K-State's offense. So if that happens, it'd be great. He does average the most out of the three dudes we'll talk about today. Nkamhoua averages 10.8 points per game, 5 rebounds and 2 assists on 51% shooting. And while 2 assists, yeah, that doesn't sound like a ton, for a dude of his size, it really is. Once again, 6'9", low post player. The dude can absolutely go and create his own bucket. And I think one thing I saw the most on his film that kind of surprised me, in the low post, he's taking a lot of fadeaway shots. Not just like get to the basket, post up, do what he can. A lot of it is get position and then fade away and shoot. So he's got that ability to step out and shoot, which I really liked. But the biggest thing is his passing. I mean, passing and fadeaway shots were massive for him. I hadn't really seen a lot of low post guys that play his similar style. He'd be an interesting fit with Jerome Tang, and I think it's possible. He is the lone guy of these three that have actually toured K-State. He had a surprise visit right after he finished up with West Virginia before going to Michigan, which geographically doesn't quite make sense, but whatever. He went to West Virginia for the weekend, so he was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Left early Sunday morning, flew to Manhattan, Kansas, or I guess Kansas City. I don't quite know if the airport's back open or not. Goes to K-State, tours K-State, and then on Tuesday, he's headed to Michigan. He did tour K-State, but he's also got offers from Michigan. He's got West Virginia. He's got Baylor and a couple of other teams that are interested in him. We'll have to see what happens. I think it's a possibility, but I'm not going to be holding straws anytime soon. I think it's a pretty up-in-the-air thing still, but the fact that he visited K-State is a great get, and I think he'd be a massive fit for K-State. He can throw down. He can do whatever you want in the low post, rebounding, scoring, whatever you need out of him. And realistically, out of all three of these guys, they're going to be not necessarily playing second fiddle to Nae'Qwan Tomlin, but you're going to have multiple guys that can do something similar to Nae'Qwan Tomlin. Tomlin's an athletic specimen, but having another big body on the court can help alleviate some of those tough matchups for Tomlin, like we saw against FAU and a couple other teams where they have a big center. Some of these guys can step in and play that, so Tomlin doesn't have to give 110% on defense, so he can focus on offense as well. The next player we're going to talk about is UNLV forward David Muoka. Now, Muoka doesn't average like 30 and 10 or anything crazy like that. He averages 4.6 points a game, 4.7 rebounds on 54% shooting. He's 6'10", 230, so long, tall, and skinny guy, similar to Nae'Qwan Tomlin. However, one thing with this dude, he is unbelievably big. Like, I know he's not like jacked or anything crazy, but he stands out. On every court I saw him, every highlight you see this guy have, he's throwing down hammerous dunks. I mean, thunderous dunks. And while UNLV wasn't great last season, they missed the tournament, this dude could jump to a school like K-State and be an instant star. A real impact player. I think he'd be a great get, and he's one of the favorites on this list. I didn't know if I would or not, but I kind of liked all three guys a lot. Some of these videos I've made, I've had, okay, well, I like Aaron Estrada, and I like this guy, but I don't like this guy. Like, as much as the others. All three of these dudes on this list would make me very happy to see in Manhattan. And this may be a little bit biased. Fair warning, it is what it is. One thing K-State does better than just about every other program in the nation, their strength conditioning, both football and basketball. Their dudes get big and strong. You saw that with Jarrell Colbert. One season with K-State, he puts on 35 pounds, 40 pounds. Goes from like 195 to 230. The dude's big. This could happen very quickly for a lot of these guys that come into K-State. So a guy like David Muoka reminds me a lot of those big, tall, athletic playmakers. He could put on some weight with K-State and be a real contributor. The third and final player I like. I didn't know how much I'd like this guy at first. I'm going to be honest. I was kind of like, okay, this is a backup option if Ernest doesn't go there, or if, Julian Phillips at the time doesn't go to K-State. I didn't know how I'd feel about this. I've changed my mind about this for sure. Malcom Dandridge. Now, he plays for Memphis, and I know you've probably seen reports about him potentially coming to K-State or getting some interest from K-State. He's a big, physical dude. He's 6'9", but here's the kicker. 260 pounds. That's 30 pounds bigger than Jarrell Colbert, bigger than Nae'Qwan Tomlin, bigger than all these other guys in the transfer portal. The dude is built. He is strong. And while the other two are both athletic and kind of can post up, fade away, do what they want to do, this dude is a physical presence that it takes a big body dude to stop. Think of TCU's Eddie Lampkin, but a little bit faster. This guy can explode. I think he'd be huge in K-State. And the biggest pairing that I saw, if you take him and insert him into Jerome Tang's offense, this guy is the king of posting up. No matter what, boxing out, posting up, any of the fundamental basketball things you see, that's what this guy is special for. The amount of inbounds plays that Memphis ran where it was literally just Dandridge getting inbounds, posting up, getting the ball in a free dunk. Jerome Tang is the king of drawing up sideline plays and out-of-bounds plays. He would be a great piece in that offense, 100%. The sideline plays that Tang would come up with for this guy, it blows my mind to think about the potential. And you saw that. Like, that's a big part of Jerome Tang and what he does. I mean, that's why we beat Michigan State. You saw Ish Massoud hit that shot on the great draw up by Tang. This guy would be a key playmaker in that. but in his time at Memphis, averaged 5.7 points per game, 3.6 rebounds on 57% shooting. He's really similar in the sense to an Ernest Udeh type player, where it's a big physical guy. He's not going to be stepping out and shooting any threes really, but he can match up and bang in the low block. That's what we're looking for in terms of this player. If Dandridge comes to K-State, that'd be great. I haven't heard a ton of news on that front yet. I think it's been about a week and a half since that initial report came out. I think he'd be a good fit. Much like the other two guys I mentioned, I think all three of these guys could come to Manhattan and play great for Jerome Tang. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you, and I hope you're doing well. If you're interested in commenting, leaving me your thoughts on any of the three players, or what's going on in the portal overall, I am much appreciative of it. If you're interested in subscribing, I've been out of town for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be making K-State content just about every other day at this point. That's where I want to be. That's where I want to see. It's not going to be a big 2-week gap unless anything crazy happens, so I am back for the long haul either way. But I appreciate you guys staying with me, rocking with me, and still watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and go Cats.